Video series, we are going to talk about how we can use RStudio, the R, for time series data analysis. Therefore, time is a major component when working with the RStudio, since we are working with time series data. So, in order to familiarize with the time component in RStudio, in this video I am going to introduce you how we can manipulate date and also familiarize with the date component. So I will start from the very scratch of the time series and also time component. So for this you have to import a special package called lubridate. So if you haven't already installed that package, you first have to install it and start working on this package, because this is widely used in entire course, because this is the most one of the widely used R package for data analyzing. So if you want to get the today's date, you just have to use this function. So once you run it, you can get the date of the date and the year, including the month. So it gives in this following format, you can see in the console. So in this later video I will show you how you can change this data format as well. So if you also want to get the current time as well, including the date, you can just use this now function. From that you can get the today's date as well as the time, including the time zone. So standard, I will now demonstrate to the standard date format for the RStudio R programming. So I will first create a sample date for this, and it is we have to define it as a string first. So in this format you can define dates in R. However, when you look at that, the structure of the sample date, you can see it is in a character format. However, since it is a date, we have to format it as a date component or the date object. So for that we have to use the as.date function. As.date function so let's run it again. So now you can see it formatted into a date format. So further you can examine that by looking at the structure of that. So now you can see it has given and formatted it as a date. So here when you check the structure, it was considered as a character, but now it is mentioned as a date format. So in this way you can convert your date, sample date, into an actual date variable. So I mentioned that the standard date is this format, which is so this is the standard format of the R when defining dates. However, if you want to define a particular dates in non-standard format, it doesn't matter, you can do that also. So in this example I am going to use a different method or a different date format to define dates. So you can do that very simply by defining the date in a different format. For this example, see and now you have to define the date format. So in here we have defined month, date, year format. So if you run this code, you can see it. So we run it again. Here the format should be actually this particular date, but it is not showing the date that we have used for this function as an argument. So the problem is, I think you have to specify this mdy explicitly. So in here I have used simple y, so instead of simple y you have to specify capital Y. So then you can see how it goes. So now it is okay, the date is correctly displaying on the console. So make sure to specify the date format explicitly when you are not entering an non-standard method, or not using an standard method of date format. So the next we'll see another format. So in here I am going to specify in month. So let's consider another form of data, non-standard data format. So we have to specify the format. So if you are going to use this format, you have to specify the format as this. Let's see the structure. So now you can see here it correctly identified the date format, year, month and date. So in this way you can specify the standard method of data formatting and also the non-standard method like this. In addition to that, you can also conduct calculations such as date differences as well. So for this example, let's see how you can subtract two dates. So in this way you can simply conduct date formats as well, date calculations as well. So you can see here now it has given the time difference as the 6,785 days. So also you can check whether different arithmetic operations and also logical operations as well. So in here you can see it has given false because this logical statement is not true, because the date 1 is larger than the date 2. So likewise you can also conduct different date calculations as well. So if you want to add time also as a component into your date, you have to use a different format or a different function. So for this one, it is called as.posixet. So you have to add when you are specifying date and time both. we'll take this example. And make sure when you are specifying the time, you have to specify it in 24-hour date format. So in this way you can define date and also the time as well. So we'll run this one. So now you can see it correctly identified the date format, including the date and also the time. So the time format or the time zone will be considered the default time format of your computer. So if you have a different time format as me, it will recognize the system time zone. So apart from that, you can also specify the time zone explicitly. So for that you can specify whether it is a GMT time or a different time zone. So for that you have to specify another argument which is called TZ for time zone. So if I want to consider it as a GMT, so you can use that GMT time zone. So that's it from this video. So when you are working with time series dataset, it is important to have a basic understanding about how time component works in R. So therefore it is really important to get familiarized with these small components that I have shown.